Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a 2012 Ford Edge, and it's got a few backup camera issues. Actually, it has one issue, it doesn't work. So let's see if we can figure out what's wrong with it and get it fixed. Start it up. Our screen works. A few miles on this little guy. 209,795. Put it in reverse. That's it. Nothing. That's all we get. Well, I'm not contacting the dealership, so. We're going to diagnose this one using the tried and true guess method. I guess this is the problem. We're going to guess that it's the backup camera itself. And it's more than a guess, it's an educated guess. I've changed a lot of these. Generally is the problem with these unless you have a broken wire somewhere. The camera is located in the finish panel on the back of the tailgate. In order to get that out, we need to pull this trim panel on the inside out. There's 4 screws and the little grab handles, so we're just going to pull those out of there. Then just a little wiggle and pull, and we'll pull those little clips out of there. And we're good. We got one little straggler clip. We'll pop that out of the tailgate, put it back in that trim panel. Then we can go ahead and disconnect the 2 wiring harnesses to our finish panel. One's for the camera, one's for the license plate lights. Now we can start unbolting the finish panel. There's 6 11mm nuts that are on studs that go through the tailgate. So we're just going to break them loose and then spin them out of there. And there's 2 clips, one at either end. We're going to do those last. We'll do our best not to drop any of these nuts down inside the tailgate, but no guarantees. It's like playing a game of Operation. Luckily, since they're enclosed inside the tailgate, it's not all rusty. Once we get all the nuts out of there, we can take a pair of needle-nose pliers and squeeze the end of those clips, pop them out of there. The easiest way not to break those clips. Got one side, and we'll do the other side. And our finish panel is free. Pop it out of there. Pull the grommet out of our tailgate. The wires go through. We'll go set this on our workbench. Now comes the hard part, getting this silly little camera out of our finish panel. We're going to unplug it first because it's easier to do when it's held into the finish panel. Dirt and stuff gets in there and it makes this plug very hard to get apart, so it's good to have something else to hold on to it. We finally got our plug off of there. We'll grab our pocket pliers. We have to move 4 of these studs. The 2 in the center can stay, but they actually hold this inner piece to the outer piece. Just clip it on the top where there are no threads and spin it out of there. Be careful not to break the little tab that's already half broken on this one off of the finish panel. Flip it on there. Usually once they break loose, they spin right out of there. This tab wasn't broken, so it came out a little easier. We're going to skip those 2 in the center. Do the outside one over here. Guess that'd be the inside one. And this is the outside one. Now there's a couple of clips on the bottom. There's a little slot in the bottom of that you can see the clips. So you just kind of stick a pick in there, spread the plastic out, hold a little tension on it, and it'll pop out of those clips. And just work your way across. There's one in the center that you can't see from the bottom. So when we get to that, we'll go on the inside and get that one. And we're there. It's right behind the camera. Now we'll just keep working across the bottom. You can see the little slots in there that I'm working in. And there's one last one giving us a hard time. There's always one. So rather than breaking it, we're going to let it have its little victory. Flip it over, and we'll just leave it connected, work around it. We did all that just to get this little screw on the back. It's a little rusty, but it does come right out of there. It's just mounted in plastic. So once you get the Torx in there, you're pretty good. Just one screw holds its little bracket in. And that bracket just holds the camera into the finish panel. And that's your whole camera right there.
In the pile.
We have our new one. Slide it into its spot. Slide the bracket up behind it. Put our screw back in. I have tried cheating and not taking these two pieces apart to get to the screw. I put a little bit in there, broke it loose with a wrench, and then kind of fought the bracket to get the camera out of there. It ends up taking just as long, so it's easier just to do it the right way. I'll figure out which wire is which because I already forgot. And this is our camera wire. Plug it in right away. There's nothing worse than getting the whole thing back together and realizing you forgot to plug the camera in. So our camera is plugged in, but it didn't give us that reassuring click. I'm going to make sure it's all the way plugged in. Now we're ready to put our two pieces together. Make sure our wires aren't pinched anywhere. And just snap all those clips across the bottom end. A couple of tabs on the end, just make sure those are clipped in where they belong. Then we can put our studs back in. Put our stud installer tool back on there and tighten them up. There's a collar on there. It wasn't centered in the collar. So I loosened it up a little bit, move it around. I dropped into the slot. Tighten up the next one. And work our way across. Not as friendly going back in as they were coming out. And this is one we got to be careful of because that little tab is already half broken. So kind of holding that in place so we don't break the other end. Just going to take our time. Overly caffeinated Scott's going to finish this up for us. Really don't want to break that one. We'll throw a pair of vice grips on that tab so we can hold it and tighten up the stud. And we got everything tight. No clips are broken. So we're ready to put our finished panel back in. Stuff the wires through the tailgate. And snap the grommet in. Line up all the studs on the tailgate. Make sure we don't have any wires pinched behind the stud. and just smash it on. This clips on the outside edge will hold it on for us. Feed our wires through here. They went through the outer panel, but not through the inner. Plug them all in. And we'll put a couple nuts on there so it doesn't end up on the floor. Even though those clips on the outside edge are holding it on, I don't always trust them. They're kind of shady. Click. Click. Now we'll go check it before we go any further. Make sure we were right. And we have a working backup camera, so we can go ahead and throw the rest of it back together and then test it again to make sure we didn't break anything while we were putting the rest of it together. So we'll finish by putting the rest of our nuts on our finish panel. Click. 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 Now that our finish panel is all bolted in, following manufacturer's torque specs of course, we're going to go ahead and throw our inner trim panel up here. There's a couple of alignment pins on there. Get those lined up and just smash it on there. Make sure it's clipped into the two upper trim panels on each side. Now we're ready to go and put our screws in our grab handles. Of course, we'll follow manufacturer's torque specs for these as well. All right, one last check. Now that it's all back together, make sure we didn't screw anything up. And there we go. Success. There you go. That's how you change the backup camera in your 11 to 14 Ford Edge. Pretty simple job. The only part you got to really worry about is getting those studs out of that finish panel without breaking it. But luckily, if you do break it, there are plenty of these in the junkyard. You can probably pick one in the right color and just don't break that one. And don't be scared to use the cheap Chinese cameras. They're probably just as good as the Ford. I've never had any trouble with them, and they're like 1/3 or 1/4 of the price. So I just go with those, and it seems to work. So thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.